Thank you, moms, for sending me those fantastic pictures. Um, you can't encapsulate a person's life, 18 years worth in 4 minutes, but that's the best we can do with, here's that guy, here's this guy. I'm glad that you all have been along for the journey of these guys. I have a question that's for everybody this morning. Who likes road trips? Road trips, yes. Who does not like road trips? Whose memories of their childhood are overwhelmed by road trip memories? When I was talking with the seniors at senior lunch, I was recognizing that using the road trip as a metaphor for our lives is a very useful way to talk about our lives, because we all have some sort of road trips in our history, whether they've been really short ones or really long ones, whether you love them, whether you survived them, whether your sisters rolled their eyes at you the whole time. Micah, I saw that in your picture a lot. There's Micah doing something goofy and his sister's going, "Oh, Micah." I took a road trip a couple of weeks ago. I went from here, I went over to Austin. I went from Austin to Pedernales State Park. I went from Pedernales State Park to Lake Brownwood, and Lake Brownwood to Lubbock, and Lubbock back to Big Lake, about 900 miles. I did it over 3 days. And it was a really good and useful road trip. This works as a metaphor for our lives and has, as far as I can remember, we use phrases like, it's not about the destination, it's about the journey. Or we say, I have not arrived yet. The writers and poets did this. Robert Frost said, two roads diverged in the wood, and I took the one less traveled by. And Tolkien says, not all who wander are lost. One of the first great stories in the history account of the nation of Israel involves a road trip. Let my people go begs the question, well, where are we going to go? And the nation of Israel gets released from slavery and takes what could have been an 11-day trip to the Promised Land, which they somehow managed to turn into a 40-year trip into the Promised Land. The story of Jesus' life begins with a road trip. Mary and Joseph, Mary great with child, they take a road trip to the town of Bethlehem. When Jesus starts his ministry, his words to his first disciples are, "Follow me," and then they take a series of road trips together until they've covered the whole countryside. And then Jesus, before he leaves them, he says, I have a place to go that you don't get to come yet, but I'm going there. I'm taking this trip to prepare a place for you so that y'all can come with me later. That's the Texas translation. And then Jesus takes a final road trip of his life on earth, the Via Dolorosa, to the place of the skull, his own road trip to his own execution. The road trip theme is one we understand. And it's one that's useful for us in understanding our lives. I wanted to make sure on Wednesday that I quoted one of the great theologians to our students, Dr. Theodore Geisel. Some of you already figured this out. His name is Dr. Seuss, as far as you all know. Dr. Seuss, one of the great theologians of our time. Dr. Seuss says this, congratulations, today is your day. You're off to great places. You're off and away. You have brains in your head. You have feet in your shoes. You can steer yourself any direction you choose. You're on your own, and you know what you know, and you're the one who'll decide where to go. This is different from any road trip they've taken before, because we all strapped them in car seats and said, you're going where we're going. Or the bus driver say, get on or I'm leaving you at the Stripes. We're going to play the ball game. We're going to the band concert. Now they're choosing their own destinations for the first time. So we asked 2 questions on Wednesday, and we'll ask them again this morning. But don't worry, Micah. Don't worry, Alex. I got new stuff in here for you too. 2 questions this morning. Where am I going? How am I going to get there? Where am I going? How am I going to get there? And we still ask these questions as adults. I asked the whole room on Wednesday, who has a good sense of where their life is going to be 10 years from now? And I had about 3 people, including from the 20 adults that were in that room, raise their hand. We have a constant state of, well, I think I know where I am. I think I know where I'm going. But boy, that's a long ways out. I'm not sure where I'm going. And you want to know 10 years from now? I don't want to know 10 years from now. I want to ask, where am I going and how do I get there? So we'll ask these 2 questions this morning. Where am I going? We ask that because when you're a high school senior in Big Lake, Texas, usually the answer is, I'm going anywhere but here. I'm trying to get out, right? And then a few of them realize after they've been out, you know what, it's okay that I want to go back too. But for most of our Big Lake kids, getting out is their destination. Well, going away from here is escaping something. I don't want you to just go away. I want you to go to something. That's what I mean by a destination. Where am I going? And I want to ask it this morning a little bit differently. How does a follower of Christ decide where to go? Because, see, we know our final destination. The Israelites' final destination was the Promised Land. The final destination for the believer is this mansion that Christ has gone to prepare for us, that where He is, we may one day also be. We have a final destination in mind, but just like the Israelites who had this 40-year time period before they got to their destination, we've got time here that we need to figure out where we're going, even though we understand the final destination. Are you following me? There must be some reason. God did not save the Israelites from Egypt and pluck them into the Promised Land. There must be some reason they had 40 years between here and there. What is it that they got to learn? What do they have to figure out in this 40 years? And we're the same way. God does not save me and immediately take me into heaven to live with Him in the mansions. He saves me and leaves me here for some reasons. So, where are we going while we're here? How do we choose these destinations? And there's just 3 quick things I think that matter. We choose our destinations by what matters the most. We use the word values for this. What's most important? And the Old Testament writers, the prophets, gave us a good idea of what's most important. Micah chapter 6, verse 8. What is good? What does the Lord require of thee? To do justice, to love mercy, to walk humbly with your God. It's in a nutshell. What's most important, right? And then they ask Jesus, what's most important? And He says, love the Lord your God with all your heart, your soul, your mind, and your strength. Love your neighbor as yourself. Everything about life revolves around these things. These are the most important things. What are the values that we hold? What's most important? When I went to Austin, I went to go to the Austin Opera. Yes, the Austin Opera. Now, did I do this because opera is my favorite art form? It is not. Did I do this because my playlist is populated with all opera songs and all opera all the time? Kayla, do I play opera at the house? I do not. I went to the Austin Opera because my brother is the principal conductor at the Austin Opera. My values include family is important to me. I went to the opera because it was my brother's show. I wanted to see him. I wanted to see him do his thing. Fantastic, by the way. My values, what's important to me includes, that helps me choose my destinations. So what's important to the follower of Christ should be a determiner of where that follower goes. The second thing that helps us with that is we need to choose destinations that are good for our souls. Good for our souls. Psalm 23 He leads me beside still waters. He restores my soul. I went to Pedernales State Park on purpose because Pedernales State Park has miles and miles and miles of hiking trails. Pedernales State Park has a cool, clear river that flows through it. These are things that are good for my soul. I took an 8-mile hike on purpose. I'm not punishing myself. I love doing this. 8-mile hike. I saw no other people on that whole hike. This is good for my soul. I need solitude. I need natural beauty. I hiked for 8 miles, drip and sweat, drive down to the river, just sit in the river. Sit in the river, cool off, just sit. I need things that are good for my soul. These things are good for my soul. I drove from Pedernales State Park up to Lake Brownwood, camped on the side of Lake Brownwood because it's good for my soul. I don't know what's good for your soul, but you probably have a good idea, or you can figure it out. Choose some destinations that are good for your soul. Third thing, choosing destinations. Choose to move toward meaningful work. Now, work is not a dirty word. Work is not something to be avoided. Work is not something to try to do as little of as possible so you can do all the other stuff. No, we're created to build things, to create things, to contribute. We're created to help people. We're created to influence people. The world does not accidentally become a better place. The world becomes a better place when people pursue meaningful work that helps make the world a better place. I went to Lubbock because Kayla was in Lubbock. Well, that's a values thing, right? That's important to me. But it was to do some work. Not a lot of work in this case. Kayla asked me to help move her out of her dormitory. Well, I can do that. I can bring stuff down from 4th floor. There's an elevator. That was really nice. The work was easy. We carried stuff down. We loaded stuff up in my pickup truck. We strapped it all down. I drove it home. We unloaded it for her. Kayla lives at our house again for a couple more months. It's fantastic. But the work was meaningful. Choose destinations that lead you toward meaningful work. Paul says in Colossians 3, whatever you do, work at it with all your heart. Work at it with all your heart, as working for the Lord, not for human masters, since you know that you will receive an inheritance from the Lord as a reward. It is the Lord Christ you are serving. In our wandering, in this time and place, the place we come to love, but in which we'll never truly belong, we need to choose to pursue important things, things that have value. We need to choose to pursue what is good for our souls and to pursue meaningful work. So that was one question. Where are we going? Where am I going? Second question was, how do we get there? Well, Brandy got us started really well, didn't she? Maps. Let's get to maps in a second. I think we tend to skip over something, and young people skip over this more because they don't know yet. If I've got a place I want to go, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to talk to people who've been there before. Do you understand what I'm saying? If I'm going to go to Lake Brownwood, I'm going to call my friend Steven and say, hey, tell me, Lake Brownwood, what's there? What should I expect? Should I take my kayak? I want young people to ask people who've been there before, what's it like? How do I get there? This matters, of course it matters in our spiritual journey in becoming who we're intended to be, but it matters in the real practical stuff of our journeys too, like meaningful work. Micah wants to be a teacher and a coach. I don't think I'm breaking news here, am I, Micah? Everybody knows this already? So I've encouraged Micah to sit down with his favorite teachers and coaches. Ask them 100 questions. By the way, most teachers love it. Ask them a bunch of questions. What's meaningful about this job to you? What's the hardest thing? What's the most rewarding thing? Do you think I would be good at this? Do you think I would like it? If I'm going to try to go here, what would you suggest I do to get there? Alex, am I going to be breaking news if I tell people you want to be a pilot? You got to sit down with pilots. You got to find flight instructors, whoever you come across. What's the most rewarding thing about this? What do you like about this? Can you help me plot a course to where I want to get here? Can you help me plot this course to where I want to be? What's going to be the most difficult thing I run into? What makes this meaningful to you? So don't skip over that step. But we do get to maps eventually. In fact, I even brought my own maps. I have the Road Atlas map of the United States. This is clearly not the one that I grew up with because this one says 1998. And that would, I'm way older than 1998, I'll tell you that. But it has in the beginning a map of the entire United States. It has, oh look, Texas. I need to find Texas. This is going to be just like your map, Maddie. Look at that. I got Texas on here. This is how I know if I'm going to go and make this road trip, this is how I know. I should go Austin, then I should go this way to go to Brownwood, and then up here to Lubbock, because that makes an efficient road trip, right? By the way, I did still plug in stuff into my phone, tick, 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 put the address in there, so that I'll know, oh, you got to turn right when you get here, or you're not going to find your brother's house. Well, that's helpful. But here's another thing that I did. So, longer story that I'm not going to tell. My brother had a rented Tesla. Skip the story. The Tesla has a giant screen in it. It's bigger than my computer screen, okay? Destination, punch it in there. You know what Tesla has? You can punch in the destination. There's a button there that says, take me there. That's not turn-by-turn directions anymore. It's push the button, let the car drive you. If Elon Musk has his way, none of us will know how to drive 30 years from now because the cars are going to be doing it for us, right? Okay, it's fantastic, and I don't want you to do it. Because, and Alex, as a pilot, you'll understand this. There is such a thing as autopilot that's helpful. But you need to drive that plane because you're responsible for what happens in that plane, right? Micah, you're a good driver, aren't you? You told me you were a good driver. Were you right? Oh, but your sisters disagree. We're rolling our eyes again. It's a sister thing to do. When you're the driver, I want you to take responsibility for the driving. You're taking your road trips now. You're choosing the destination, but you've also got to take responsibility for the driving. I don't want you to go on autopilot. I want you to do, Micah, what your mom already told us. Follow the map that's given to us. Psalm 119, 109, your word is a lamp unto my feet and a light for my pathway. The Word of God is a map for the road trips He wants us to take. And then in addition to the Word, Jesus said this to His followers, I'm leaving, but I will ask the Father, and He will give you another advocate to help you and be with you forever, the Spirit of truth. The Word and the Holy Spirit will help us know how to get where He wants us to go. Do I need help knowing how to get somewhere? You bet I do. So do you. And God provides Himself to help us. So, if life is a road trip, if life is a journey, does the destination matter? You bet it does. Does the journey matter? You bet it does. Promised land is the destination for the Israelites. The mansion over the hilltop is the destination for the Christ follower. The 40 years in the desert matters to us right now. So let's ask, where are we going to go? How are we going to get there? And let's follow the Word and the leading of the Spirit to get to those places. Is it okay if I end with the rest of the Dr. Seuss piece? It's so good. He's the best with words. You look up and down streets, look them over with care. About some, you will say, I don't choose to go there. With your head full of brains and your shoes full of feet, you're too smart to go down any not-so-good street. And you may not find any you'll want to go down. In that case, of course, you'll head straight out of town. It's opener there in the wide open air. Out there, things can happen, and frequently do, to people as brainy and footsy as you. And when things start to happen, don't worry, don't stew. Just go right along. You'll start happening